So this is the next, and I have no idea. We're plus 20 episode of the No Damn's Given podcast. If you like our shows, please hit the subscribe button and then hit the like button. If you don't like it, leave a comment. Let us know why so we can make it better. Today we have Mr. Michael Revell, longtime friend and baseball partner for the past, I don't know, decade plus.
Yeah, plus.
Yeah, with our kids, and he wants to run for office for some strange reason. So tell us why.
Well, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I want to stop being part of the complaints and start being part of the solution. I mean, that sounds, very typical, but in today's climate, you look at it, and the problem is that can I fix Washington today? No, I can't. Can I fix Leesburg today? I believe I can.
So what office, just to clarify?
So I'm the mayoral candidate for the city of Leesburg.
So what's the what does the playing field look like there? So what's the political climate?
So the political climate is not bad. Currently, we have a city council, and everyone on the city council is great, but we don't have a working relationship with the Board of Education. We don't have one with the county, and we certainly don't have any with any neighboring communities. And so,
what do you mean by a working relationship? What's that? I mean,
so
they don't talk to each other?
No, not really. I mean, I don't see how it's baffling to me how you can have a school that is the epicenter of the county. You've got the city that's the county seat, and you don't have projects that you're working with on constantly. You're not in constant contact. You're not in the same boat together, rowing in the same direction.
So for example, what does that mean? So like what's an example of how that, or is there an example? I don't know. I'm just asking. Like, how hasn't that helped, or how has that hindered stuff?
Well, I think it hinders stuff because if the county has their own agenda, if the city has their own agenda, and the school board has their own agenda, then you're breaking that group effort up into smaller fragments that are less effective.
So who's on the board now, or who's running against you? What's the who are the players?
So running against me is a guy named Billy Breeden. Billy has been on the council for 7 years. He is retired, worked at Flint. He's 75. That's really the biggest difference between Billy and I is really our age. I think Billy's a good guy. I think I'm a good guy. Don't ask the lady to my right, but essentially what we have here is.
So my CrossFit coach came today.
Well, it
also known as Michael's wife, Jenny.
Exactly. Well, it becomes a little bit more. We all become disconnected to what the relevant topics are. What I mean by that is, take you for example, the revitalization of downtown for decades was said it would never happen. It can't happen. Who's going to be the first to start that? Well, look at you guys. If you were 70, how many 75-year-olds to 84-year-olds come in and say, "Hey, I'm ready to do something. Let's make a power move. Let's invest. Let's get excited about this. Let's do it for the future." Again, there's a place for that, but these aren't. I don't want to say this isn't the people that we need in leadership, but what we need is young, vibrant people that are in business, that understand business, that are in tune with what the community needs and have a vested interest. For example, so I have, as you know, I have an 18-year-old son. He's a senior in high school, graduates this year. I have 2 3-year-old twin daughters. And right now, my biggest push for Lee County, Leesburg, and the surrounding communities is my daughters. I mean, they're going to be here for a long time, and I want to make this place as wonderful of a community as I can. And that starts with this office, and this office creating a relationship with that school board and keeping that school board vibrant and operational, and then working with the county and working on developments. But the big thing that nobody wants to talk about that I'm ready to hit head on, and I don't know that there could be better timing for this, is the relationship between Albany. You know, people don't want to talk about, there's a contentious relationship between Albany and Leesburg. Leesburg, the perception is they hate Albany, or Lee County hates Albany, and that Albany is not a place you want to be a part of. Well, that's just silly. When it comes down to this, is Albany needs Leesburg. The qualified workforce lives in Lee County that provides for this industry.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, we had the city manager on here, I don't know, back before Christmas, and that was one of her. She spent 10 or 15 minutes talking about that how that's a huge component of her population, even though they live in Leesburg. A large percentage of them work in not just in downtown, but in Albany and Dougherty County proper. So you're exactly right. I mean, we have a relationship, and helping each other grow is certainly important.
Sure. Well, it's a vested interest. So if you look at it and you look at the major industries that makes Dougherty County have a viable tax base, with the marine base, P&G, Phoebe Putney, the city of Albany, Miller, where do those people live? Pretoria Fields, exactly. The levee. So, but where do those folks live? And then how do we have this?
Albany Area Hand Therapy, Albany Vascular Specialist Center.
A lot of plugs.
What's your business?
Roof Services. My business is actually located in Albany.
Yeah. Albany Vascular.
So one of the things we want to do is realize that it's bigger than us. It's bigger than Leesburg.
Is that water, by the way?
No, this is your newest beverage. It is hard seltzer, and it is delicious, by the way.
What flavor is that?
The ladies actually love it. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Continue on.
Well, I was
Mayor.
just going to say that you said it was delicious, but you've never met a hard seltzer you didn't like. So
Easy.
So anyway, what I was saying is that the community has to work together, because we're a region, and that's what people don't want to understand. The more we self-segregate between the communities, the less we have.
Well, and I've driven through downtown Leesburg. What a beautiful little downtown it's got. I mean, it's cute. I mean, it's got the train depot and all, and the buildings. I mean, I think you got 2 or 3 things that are there, and maybe a law office is right there.
It says lawyer right on that building.
Maybe there's another thing, but I mean, how neat would it be? Y'all live right there, have a restaurant downtown. I mean, it's those things. Like, people want community, they want to have, and that's the story of Pretoria Fields. I mean, I was going to put this out on the farm, and really the community said we want it downtown. Absolutely. And they've supported it, and that's the most important thing. Is what one of the city manager. Anyway, we've had several guests come on and talk about how it's been a force that brought people together, and so it's a good thing. It's a good idea.
Well, you were certainly the cornerstone, and the cornerstone came down and you have to. I would say, if we're all being honest here, many people probably told you it wouldn't work. This isn't going to happen. Tripp, don't make this decision. But your love for the community and investment back into it, we've made it work.
Might have been people related to me.
But possibly. Yeah. So, I mean, to your point, Leesburg is a beautiful city. We've got a little bit of blight we need to take care of, but that comes from strong leadership. People sometimes need a little nudge to make that corrections there. But here's the difficult part. Do we have a phenomenal school system? Absolutely. Can I get a slice of pizza? No, I can't. You cannot get a slice of pizza in Leesburg. You can't have a pizza delivered to you in Leesburg. So we forget about these things from us that are born and raised in Albany, and we've always had these luxuries that we take for granted, even though people want to run things down. And you want that lifestyle, and so we talk about all the things that Albany, because we said Albany needs Leesburg, but Leesburg needs Albany. And where do we go eat at? Jenny and I, when we go to eat, we come to Albany because it has those things. So the industry's here for the jobs. The qualified workforce is in Lee County. So how do we work together to grow this? And it's us getting in that boat and rowing together. And the relationship between the city of Leesburg and the city of Albany, essentially there's never been one. So why not start now? We've got some changes going on with the regime in Albany, some new fresh faces. We're having that same thing happen in Leesburg. Let's get together and put our ideas together and see what we can do, because we do need each other.
Yeah, I totally agree. So for the past, couple of years, I think there was a little bit of a contention previous to maybe 2-3 years ago, but it was made just horribly worse by the fight between the hospital and then Chairman Cohilas, who was basically it's been on Phoebe Factoids. Everybody knows about it. I mean, he was on one side and then the faces of the city councilman on the other. And that's really been the contention between our two communities. And it just made whatever little, I think it wasn't, I don't think it was bad before that. And so having another face that wants to put out a hand and let's all work together for the betterment of the community and take responsibility for what, because if there's one thing that I can say, it's you can only fix what you can fix. But when you fix whatever's going on in front of you, it makes everybody's little piece of it better.
Absolutely.
And so you make your bed, you make sure that your house and your yard is taken care of. Well, then if you can do that, then make sure your community's taken care of. Make sure your employees are taken care of. Do those things that you have control over, but they magnify.
Right.
And that's the story of what these small things are able to accomplish.
You're exactly right. And once we have that cohesive relationship, we can grow. One of the contentions between is a competition. I'll give you an example. The city of Leesburg is proposing a large sports complex inside the city limits. They've deeded 100 acres to the county. Now, no progress has been made because the county has to be all in. Well, we're spending all this time and resources trying to build this to beat Albany to the punch. Well, Albany already has the drawings, the renderings for Pauline Sports Complex. So why would you spend all of that money to have that facility to say, hey, look what we have. We have this. Where does it, from a businessman's perspective, what does that benefit? And it's the hotel stays, and it's the people traveling in and out of town. You and I have done it for well over a decade, and we've gone to every small town, every mid-sized town, and even Atlanta for sometimes weeks at a time for baseball tournaments and spent all of our money there. But who's going to get that? Albany's going to get that money. Leesburg doesn't have that. So why not work together and let them focus on that and say, hey, we're going to have an area sports complex that's going to draw from lots of areas, and we're going to support you very strongly. Transversely, Lee County has one of the strongest school systems around here. I went to the Eggs and Issues breakfast where they recognized the star student and star teacher. And some of Jason, the superintendent, gave some statistics that blew my mind. So there's 181 school systems in the state of Georgia. And Lee County in the three measurables were in the top 10%, the top 8%, and the top 4% in the entire state. Impressive. So that's impressive. Now, what's one of the biggest complaints we have in Dougherty County and Albany? The school system. Why not partner with those guys? And what are they doing right? What's different? What do you guys do? This is what we do. What do you guys do? And it's like business. So I'm in the roofing business, and there's the largest capita of roofing companies in Albany, Georgia, than any place in this hemisphere. There's, I think, 19 companies.
Was that after our storms?
This was kind of before storms, but now certainly after that.
It's actually more than the number of dollar stores.
It really is. So that we corner the market on businesses.
I don't think so. But it's definitely more than the pizza places.
More than the pizza places in Leesburg, that's for sure.
But what we can't do is we can't hold contention towards those. I hope all those guys have success, but I've got to plow on my field and do what's right for me, like you said earlier, and everything will benefit from that. So there are guys in this industry. One of my, a guy that's back in my campaign is a competitor of mine. Michael Strickland at S&S Roofing is in a campaign endorser and a donator to the campaign. I mean, that should speak volumes right there when, when I don't know how many vascular surgeons donate to this podcast, but I would say probably not many.
Just one.
But so
Dan, if you're listening, you haven't sent back in your return.
Ready for that invoice, Dan.
Now that the house is finished. Just wondering.
But yeah, there's so much that can be done, but you have to have the right energy. You have to have the right people. The positive thing for the city of Leesburg is 2 council seats have been replaced. There were no elections held. Only 2 people qualified. One's Jason Renfro, who owns businesses in Albany, Georgia, owns Maryland Fried Chicken. Great guy, does a fantastic job, really interested. What he has in common with the other people that are interested in running, he has children. So he wants the city and the school system to be as nice as possible. And then you've got Amanda White, who's a pharmaceutical rep who just went into office 2 months ago. And same thing, she's got a 5-year-old son. She's vested in the school system. And one of her biggest things that she wants to see is the safety for the schools. If you've ever been to Leesburg and you see how congested the traffic is there's not a single crossing guard in Leesburg or Lee County. There's not. And they're right now deciding if they're going to vote on crosswalks, lit up crosswalks. If we can't protect our kids, what can we protect?
Now they use the cops, right? Because I go through there in the morning.
In some areas, really at intersections further out, not where they cross from the school. So there's a large population of kids that walk to school across from the high school, and you have to dodge those kids. I mean, it's like I would date myself by saying Frogger, but you have to, as they're coming along, you have to be very careful. So some of us will stop and hold everyone else up and get honked at to let these kids cross the road. But
some people would say it's just like when we were in school.
Yeah, I mean,
a long time ago.
Yeah, we had a safety kit and you get a Band-Aid or one aspirin.
Well, and honestly, a lot of this stuff is new to us because we've only been in Leesburg for 2.5, almost 3 years now. Right. And Leesburg is so small. So if you're not in the heart of Leesburg, you think of Leesburg as all of Lee County, but it's not. So you don't realize any of these issues. So after we moved there and realized this is where we're going to raise our girls now and stay there for a long time, there are a lot of things that could be changed. And Michael's wanted to run for office for as long as I've known him. We've been together 15 years. Whew, that's a long time.
You really are dating yourself now.
But I mean, this kind of just presented itself and was a perfect situation that this seat came open. And, Michael's a great person for it because he is aggressive in the things that he believes in and making them happen. And Leesburg is great, but it could be even better. I mean, there needs development and some change.
Well, you own your own business. You're an entrepreneur.
I am.
Love it. I mean, that's right after my own heart. Let's take a little break now and open the Southern Harvest Light. This is our newest offering, and it'll be in cans here before you know it.
That's an impressive can.
I was going to say, that is large.
They actually won't be this large.
No, but they can be if you come down to the brewery. That's pretty good.
A little bit of fuzz. You want some?
Nah, over there first.
I thought this was like high school. I thought we just pass it around like it's Boone's Farm.
That's actually next quarter.
Yep.
We're working on that next. Yeah. Sorry. So platform issues, I guess you've gone through a few of them. Is there any specific ones that, besides the things that we've talked about?
Yeah, the biggest platform issues really are to create those symbiotic relationships between the three entities in Leesburg, Lee County, and the school system. Also offer the olive branch to Albany and see how we can work together to grow and really realizing that if we compete with, Leesburg will never be able to compete with Albany based on the infrastructure that they have. A prime example is there will not be any real industry offering real jobs in Leesburg until we get utilities there, meaning gas specifically. Albany has that. Now, people won't invite industry there because, they'd have to buy the gas from Albany. Why not allow that? Because we would have the tax base, we would get the jobs. I mean, you're not going to get all of the pie, but let's share together and we can all eat. And so, those are just a few of the issues. You know me well enough to know I could talk all day about all of them.
Please do. Keep going. Yeah, we're good. This is the easiest guest I've ever had, actually.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in it. And again, I want to reiterate that the people that have been on the board in Leesburg are great people, but we have status quo, and that's what happens. My plan is not to be the mayor, if elected, not to be the mayor of Leesburg for 30 years. That accomplishes nothing. 30 years from now, when I'm 72, there's going to be a 42-year-old me somewhere that is smarter than me, that's more tuned into the community, that knows what's going on, and it's time to pass that torch. My job is to get in, make an impact now, create a good culture around me, and as we do that, pass the torch. Start investing back and finding those new bright eyes that want to come in and make a difference. And they're out there, but they have to be told they can do it. The scariest part of any of these elections is no one votes. No one votes. That's crazy to me. Why don't our high schools, when you turn 18, they send you a Facebook, happy birthday. Why not register you to vote?
Sounds like a good idea.
One of the things that got me the most was, that was most impactful to me, was I coach travel baseball and I have a young man who plays for a university in Florida, and he's still a resident of Leesburg. And he said, "Hey, coach, I just heard about it. I'm going to vote for you, but I've got to come back and register." Well, I said, "Jonathan, you're 20 years old, son." And he said, well, usually people register right before the presidential election that's after they turn 18. And I got to thinking about that, and I thought, what if you turn 18 this December? So it's 4 years before you cast your first vote. And that blows my mind. I mean, we've got to teach these kids to be engaged, to want to be a part of it. And here's the thing: if every kid at Lee County High School in Daugherty County High School would register to vote, you don't have to vote for me. You don't have to vote for the person I'm running against. Just vote. Be a part of the difference. Be a part of the change. Yeah. And so I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about the community because I have a vested interest now. But I haven't lost my passion for Albany either. Born and raised in Albany. 42 years old. My entire family, for the most part, is from Albany and Leesburg, and so I'm just looking forward to doing my part. And that part's going to be a small part, but I'm going to pave the way for the next guy.
How many people live in Leesburg? How many votes are we talking about?
There's about 2,600 people that live there. Registered voters, probably about 1,500. How many are going to turn out to this election? It's going to be staggeringly low. I think we just saw a good comparison would be Blakely. The city of Blakely just had their mayoral election.
Do you have Jeannie going door to door?
Well, that's my plan. That's my secret weapon. So
yes, if I knock on a door near you soon, answer and please understand.
Well, we are going. That's one of the campaigns that we're doing. So the opponent that I'm going against, has a name in Leesburg. His family does. He's not an incumbent, but he has been on the council for 7 years. So our campaign, when we first roll it out, it's pretty polarizing. We kind of hitched ourselves to the Donald Trump wagon, so to speak. It's make Leesburg great again type thing. And so but that is not really what we're doing. What we're doing is that first polarizing action to grab your attention, good, bad, or indifferent. And then we come on podcast and go to different opportunities that we have to explain how we really feel about it. And that's the one thing I encourage people. I'm an open book. Call me anytime. Ask me any question. I'll be glad to address that with you. I'm open to listening to new ideas, but we've got to start the change now. I mean, it sounds cliche, but if not now, when?
Yeah.
And
and we learned about a few things, like there's not even internet everywhere in Leesburg, correct?
Yeah, that's staggering. We had
inside the city limits.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we kind of got together.
I actually don't have internet.
But you're kind of far out there.
That's a Sean Henley issue.
Poor Sean.
CF no. I know you're listening.
And if you're not, you should be.
Yeah.
Sean, I'll defend you.
Yeah.
Well, we should. There was a group that got together and had a vote, and so it was about bringing high-speed internet to all the residents of Leesburg. You guys know we all have kids. Kids have to have computers. They've got to have internet to be able to do their homework and things like that.
Well, parents, adults. I work from home. If I'm a medical device representative, so I'm on the road all the time. My office is in my house. I have to have the internet. A lot of working people, whether they work at home or not, do work at home and need the internet.
So before the council started to make the changes that it's making now with the 2 new members, the council people's ages were 69 to 84. And the consensus was, why would we pay to install this infrastructure when you can go to the library at the Bindery on 82 and check your email for free? That's what we do. I mean, that within itself should tell you everything you want to know. I mean,
so speaking of working with Albany, have you talked to Sharon Subadan about moving their high-speed internet out to Lee County?
I would love for them to. I have, believe it or not, talking about that. Once I announced I was running for this, Chad Warbington reached out to me, and we talked about some ideas he had bouncing around. Now, they really more affect the county in the short term, but his idea was, when you go out Philema Road, that's Albany for a good little ways out there past River Point and Cheehaw. And then he said, then you go into Lee County, it's heavily populated, but they don't have any utilities out there. They don't have water. So they're all on wells. He said, what if the city of Albany ran the water out there? The benefit for the Lee County was, hey, our residents have municipal water. We don't have to worry about a lightning strike knocking a well out or having to get it tested or anything like that. But we're not going to make any money off of it, but it's going to be a benefit to our day-to-day life. That's a fantastic idea. But that takes what we're talking about, that symbiotic working relationship, realizing that we're going to have some benefit. We're not going to have it all, but we don't need it all.
And not only worrying about your own political whatever it is.
Gain.
So, I'm saying, yeah. So it doesn't necessarily help Lee County politicians or Daugherty County politicians to help Lee County, but actually it would help. It helps Albany Daugherty County government because we would benefit. Well, we would benefit the people who a lot of those are actually working in Albany, and so it's a good thing.
Absolutely,
and benefit those residents. I mean, that's what public office is to benefit the residents.
Well, that's to your point. One of the things that we've gotten away from is, and there may be people around that don't agree with this. So a city manager is not the top of the cycle. The top shouldn't be set up like that. And we've gotten to where councils in general, they hire a city manager, they expect the city manager to do everything, and they just say yes, no, maybe, but you do all the work. The way that the structure should be set up is not city manager, the council, department heads, and employees. It should be the citizens. The citizens run this community. Citizens should run Albany. The citizens should run Leesburg and every other municipality. But those citizens, under that should be the council, period. The council receives those wishes and does what it takes to expedite that of their constituents. So at that point, they give the marching orders to the city manager. It's not a dictatorship. The city manager has their own agenda. You shouldn't have a city manager who's looking for 8 and hit the gate, just cruising to retirement and not willing to do anything and slowing down all the processes.
Now, I assume you're talking about Leesburg now?
Well, I'm talking about the area. How about
just
that?
In general? So that's a good civics lesson. So what kind of mayor does Leesburg have? Are they a strong mayor? Are they a weak mayor? Are they run by city manager?
Right now, we have Jim Quinn is running for public office, but had been in that position for over a decade. Through that course, in about 2008 or 2009, the city of Leesburg hired a city manager. City manager's name's Bob Alexander. He was a traffic engineer.
2009.
Yeah, 2009. He was a traffic engineer in Albany. Very nice guy. So they hired him to kind of run the city.
So they have a weak mayor, city manager.
Yes, but
that's the way most things are set up. Yeah.
That is, but that's part of the problem. That is part of the problem because who that city manager is working for is the citizens, specifically the council who represents the citizens. And so what we're looking to do is not have a weak council, to have a strong council that guides the city manager, and they have a very close working relationship.
Right. And I think what you're saying is they have to come up with policy. And that's been a big issue in Albany. So they need to set the policy so that the city manager can say, okay, follow these, and they're like the city manager should be like the CEO of a corporation that has a governing board. And then the board says, these are our goals and objectives. We want a park. We want to work with Albany. We want cable TV. We want X, Y, Z. These are the things that we want. And here, go do them.
Right.
And if you don't get these things accomplished, then we're going to get somebody else to do them.
Absolutely.
And so the problem you have is when then what you're talking about, Q public elects X official, and then they don't give good guidance to the people who actually run things.
Absolutely.
And then everybody's pointing fingers one thing or another.
Or nobody points fingers and you get an extremely stagnant environment. That's what Leesburg is. No one's doing anything bad, but the problem is they're not doing anything. If anybody knows anything about the city of Leesburg, nothing's changed. It's been status quo. And unfortunately, so many people are happy with that. The people especially that are running the situation. So establishing that new chain of command and realizing that we need to get representatives that speak for their constituents, that speak for the public, that realize what the community needs and are listening to the community, creating that agenda, passing it down to the city manager, holding them accountable. We're going to expedite this in this period of time. If you can't do that, then we need to replace you with someone who can. And make sure that person, you don't micromanage them, but you make sure that they hold the department heads accountable and the employees. Yeah. So you said you wanted somebody who talks a lot. Sorry, I talk a lot. So
I still want.
And he'll be knocking on your door soon to talk even more with you.
Yeah, citizens of Leesburg.
Actually, those 1,500 voters, you can expect to sit down with every single one.
Well, that's the thing. So our campaign is kind of more grassroots. We're going a little bit outside the box. I kind of mentioned that earlier and went down a rabbit hole. But what we're going to do is I'm going to knock on every door. So citizens of Leesburg, you should expect to see me. And I look like Santa Claus, but I'm not. But I do want to bring you gifts and make the city a great environment.
How many of those citizens that you think that don't have internet access are actually going to go down to the library to watch this podcast?
Well, what we're going to hope, we're hoping that
All
they
of
have.
them.
Hopefully on the commute to work in Albany.
Yeah.
Well, we're counting on is the smartphone population right now, because when I watch these podcasts, I watch them on my phone. I generally act like I'm in my office conducting some kind of special meeting, but I've got my earbuds in and I'm listening to the podcast.
So going back to the Google algorithm, we can actually target every one of those people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So as weird as it may seem, anybody who actually watches YouTube in Lee County, we can send it directly to them. So we
can send them.
That's kind of
an advertisement for light beer. The other light beer.
The other light beer.
Speaking of that light beer, I need to try that light beer.
My dad was in local politics in Camilla, and so I grew up with this same thing. In fact, I remember riding in the green Ford pickup truck.
They have like a bullhorn and
signs
on the back.
There's a lot of fun stories about the green Ford pickup truck, but we'll save that for another time. Because I actually got it later when I could drive. So it was that I inherited the green Ford pickup truck.
Well, I'm sure it was.
And this
in
was
rough
like
shape.
a 79, 78, 79. Yeah, and it was fun. Yeah, a lot of fond memories.
I've ridden with your dad, and he doesn't drive under 96 miles an hour, specifically south of Dougherty County in his home county.
He's just kidding.
But no, he's a great driver.
Yeah. My point was rode around, and you're talking about taking your wife, and Dad took me and walking up to all the houses and said, and I think that's in the small community, you have to do it. You got to go. You got to go ask everybody. You got to go ask everybody for their vote.
Kiss babies.
I will be sending both of our 3-year-old twin girls with him. If you don't love him, you will certainly love one of them.
Love one of them. And Dad actually won his election. He was on the city council for quite some time, and one year he won by 3 votes, in which he pulled up. He said, "Have you guys voted?" And he took 3 people, and I'm not even sure this is legal, but he actually drove them. He drove them to the polls. They voted, and he won by 3 votes.
Thank God the statute.
So that's it was probably 112 to 109.
Yeah, that's what you're seeing in these small towns. I mean, it's crazy. We were talking about that election in a neighboring community that's larger than Leesburg. The mayor won with 143 votes. And so, the voter population is much higher than that. We really need to focus on getting people to the polls, not only for this election, for all elections. I mean, this particular election happens on the Democratic primary, which is just, generally not a large turnout in Lee County. But, what can affect you more than this Democratic primary is going to be this local election, because it has an instantaneous impact on you. And that's what we need to get people. There's We've had some great endorsements. We talked about, a guy that's in the same industry as me, Michael Strickland. He's a good guy, and we're competitors, but yet he gets what we're doing. We've got half of the council that's endorsing us. I think that speaks volumes for a newbie versus someone who's been there. And those candidates or those council people are going to be going door to door with us too and meeting some of their constituents. They were actually appointed because they were in an election that was unopposed. So we're excited about where Leesburg is going and what the potential it is, but we need to get the right people in place.
So do you think if I gave you 1,500 beers to hand out, that would
probably help?
Is that
pizzas
buying votes?
Might help better, actually.
It would make
so maybe if we
going door to
gave
door
1,500 pizzas and beer.
I think that's no.
You can't
That's-
do that.
You said, is that buying votes?
I don't know. Is that buying
I'm
votes?
going to keep us legal here.
Oh, I think there's actually a specific thing you can't give alcohol.
That's why you're not a politician.
But is that?
This is why. We're just going to invite people
Yeah.
to the brewery and visit and check it out.
Yeah.
Well,
And we'll knock door to door. We'll
Well, I'll tell
leave
you,
that up to you, Michael.
We can meet halfway. We're going to have a community day set up at a location where we're going to be cooking out and inviting people to come down and bring the issues that you have, bring the conversation, a meet and greet, and we're going to be providing food. And what goes better with food than
beer.
Pretoria Fields beer?
We have definitely been a part of quite a few elections in the local area, so we'd love to do that.
It's great with pizza.
It
So I used to live down Falima, so we would have to drive to. You could drive. I forget what the cutoff was. We would have to drive to meet our pizza delivery guy down Falima, so that we could get. I thought things would have changed. I moved in 2006 back to Doherty County. I would have thought things had changed since then. But apparently, those people that live down Falima still have to drive to get their pizza.
Yeah, I think if you're in Leesburg, Publix is the handoff point. You know, the pizza drivers they'll meet you at Publix. If you get it in that order, meet you at Publix.
Parking lot.
I'm the pizza guy.
Yeah.
So
that's funny.
But yeah, there's a lot that we still have left to do. A lot we can do. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you letting us come on here, and it's been it's been a pleasure to enjoy all the investment you've made in downtown. Jenny and I enjoy coming down and trying the new beverages and just fellowshipping, and we should be leaning on you and Glenn and the guys that have made that investment downtown and say, how do we do that in our town? How do you guys make it work? You guys are a living example of how it works, and we should have a relationship with you. I mean, how has the Economic Development Committee or the Chamber in Leesburg reached out to you and said, hey, how do you do this?
I just got put on the Doherty County Economic Development, which I think is Attica. So we just put I just went to a class yesterday at the LaGrange, I don't know, somewhere up in north. That's somewhere up in north of Macon. That's like the Mason-Dixon line for Georgia, and
north, all the way up there at
all
Macon.
the way across, all the way above
that line,
all the way above Macon. And so it's super interesting though to learn about how it's like having a civics lesson for 7 or 8 hours, of course, without all of the fraternity and there were
like
no
Hell Week for Attica.
No sorority either.
No beer served.
Yeah,
nothing.
and there was no beer. And in fact, it actually wasn't like college at all. So, come to think of it, but it was super interesting. There's a lot of good things going on with the development, and honestly, there's quite a few mayors there. So if you were to win, my guess is you get to take a class that the University of Georgia gives, and which is awesome that the Carl Vincent Institute puts that on, and just learning about how the state and just the state and local governments work. It was mostly about what not to do. So in other words,
don't try and buy
if the city is going into a good business deal, you can't go buy the land first and then double the price. And then they're given the election. They're like, "Yep, had to tell y'all that because somebody did it."
Yeah, it's an ethics class.
It's an ethics class, basically,
for those in charge.
For a lot,
Most
and
of
to
the
tell
things,
you the pursuit. Yeah,
most of the things people tell you not to do is because somebody's already done it.
They've already done them.
Yeah.
No, and I guess my point being is there are a lot once you get involved, and even if you don't win, there are a lot of avenues to be involved with local and county government, and I applaud you for doing it because it doesn't pay anything. Like, I mean, I don't know. Does the mayor pay anything?
It's about $3,000 a year, I think, for that commitment.
So that's not worth it.
No, it's not. But see, that's why you should be there. I mean, people,
I definitely can't quit my job.
That's definitely not worth it.
Well, what happens is we've gotten to the place where the stereotype of politicians is their personal agenda or their ego, because the money is not there on the lower level politics. But that's where we're going to change it. We actually have some people, if you can imagine this, that really want to make a change and do something different. I mean, I have, like I said, a senior in high school and 2 3-year-olds and a wife and a business. So it's going to take away from those things. I'm willing to give up some of that time that I would be able to put in those things, which are my most important resources, in order to farm, and grow and develop the city, the county, and any other entity I can, in order to provide my best resource to have its the best resources it can have. And so,
Sure.
you know, it's a labor of love. It's something you should want to do. It's why we see so many retirees doing it, because, you know, they're just, it's, hey, I'm a deacon in the church. I'm going to be a councilman. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But we don't see any change when that happens. We need some people that say, hey, I'm coming in. This is my only agenda is to make this place better.
Gonna shake it up.
That's it,
Right.
honestly. And that we're seeing that all over the country in
That should
politics.
be your like tagline right there. Not make Lee County great again. It should be shake
Because
it up.
what is that? Malaga? Shake
Shake and bake is better.
it.
So I think if
Karen.
we get too
Sit down,
close
Karen.
there, if we get to shake it, then, you know, somebody's asking me to do the truffle shuffle at some point, and it just gets awkward for everybody. You know, they're like, "Come on, you got to
Let's not
shake
go
it,
there.
big guy." So, but yeah, it gets weird. So,
I like that you just called yourself big guy.
hey, what politician doesn't speak of it, or you know, prospective politician doesn't speak of himself in the third person? So,
That's right.
Vote for Big
Exactly.
Daddy.
I mean,
please don't ever call me Big Daddy. That's
Is that for everybody or just for Trip?
mostly Trip.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's all good. Yeah.
Big Daddy's Pizzeria coming at
Yeah, it's exciting. So tell me, what's the next step for Pretoria Fields? Like,
you.
Loggers is the next step.
Yeah.
Loggers and
So is that
apparently
still made in house?
seltzers.
You're doing everything yourself here in town, and
Oh yeah. Our so this is a long comment. I had to take a deep breath. We have changed brewmasters, and our
Brewmeisters.
brewmeisters. And so when that happens, the artistic reference changes a little bit, and the new artistic reference will be a little more geared towards
We're gonna have,
seltzers.
yeah. Well, we'll have everything for everyone.
Yeah,
We'll still have wonderful ales,
more broad array.
some
maybe.
more loggers.
We've also expanded,
some
so
seltzers.
our fermentation capacity is more than it was. We've got 90 barrel fermenter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least 60 barrels. We've got 390 barrel.
230s.
390 barrel bright tanks. So I mean, our fermentation capacity has transformed to the point where we could actually add loggers in because
Loggers take longer to ferment.
Yeah.
It take like 6 weeks versus 2, because it's a bottom fermenting yeast versus a top fermenting yeast.
And so to add that in, which we want to do, it's a hot summer.
Yeah.
It's a hot summer here in South. Did y'all know that?
It
You've
is hot
lived
here?
You've lived here.
A couple of years.
You've
Yeah.
lived here.
well, when you have someone who is a transplant here, like Jenny, you get reminded as her husband of what a you know, hellacious temperature we have
Okay.
down here.
Listen.
We have a running joke in our house that she says it's always at least 10 degrees cooler in Atlanta.
This is true.
It is.
And we have
I've got a friend, my best friend and idol, Walt Jeter from Byramville, Georgia, calls it Hellhole, South Georgia. It is 10 degrees hotter, 10 degrees hotter in the circle that encompasses Byramville, that also includes Albany, than anywhere else on the planet.
This is true.
This is true.
See, this is coming from a surgeon.
Yeah.
Oh, so
A
that qualifies.
vascular surgeon
Slash meteorologist.
Yeah.
just backed me up that it is 10 degrees cooler
It
in
actually-
Atlanta at all
Yeah.
times.
At all times.
And you actually have a good friend whose father told you that you got better take a jacket every time you go to Atlanta.
Can I have a Sholey, please?
I will tell you this, yeah. One of my very best friends, Hayes Cook, his father Larry, who actually runs a division of the county here, Public Works. So Larry always told us, or Mr. Cook, our coach in my book, he would say, if you're going to go above Macon, you better take a jacket. Now, you know, Hayes and I, through all of our coaching adventures all over, we would never take a jacket. I mean, we're coaching baseball. It's the summertime.
And they'd be freezing every time.
time. I coached in shorts. It was 21 degrees and snowing in Atlanta, in College Park, Atlanta, with Tom Pinson, and it was a absolute coldest I've ever been. He almost blew himself up with a propane tank because
Tom
it's Tom.
Pinson did?
Yeah, Tom. You know,
Awesome.
he's MacGyvered his. It probably wasn't. It was probably a keg before, but it ended up being this heat flamethrower thing that he had, and yeah, he lost his eyebrows. So Fortunately, he's a handsome man, so he didn't need his eyebrows.
It's actually
I
not
guess.
shocking.
That's not shocking. at all.
That's not shocking.
I'm sure he's very thankful that you just shared that story too.
Well, hey, if you can't do that for friends, who can you do it for?
You should be on the religion podcast when we get at the end. It's very good. Hey, Travis.
Travis watched the whole thing.
So, how about it? How is his book doing?
I don't know. He said as far as Amazon goes, well, of course they classify everything, and whatever classification he was in, he was number 2 for that classification, which seems good. So I don't know.
That's great.
I've never written a book. That would be the first thing. I wouldn't
Maybe
care
you
if
should.
I'm 100. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wrote a book. It's published.
Yeah.
Somebody bought it.
That
Somebody.
would
Like-
have to be one heck of an edited book.
It would.
You think so?
Don't
Yeah.
egg him on
I
to
would-
pick up
can't-
another
One
project.
more responsibility.
I'd probably be better if I just dictated it and have
It
it.
would.
Somebody else.
Somebody
Yeah, I'll
else,
just-
somebody
I'll
else do all the grammar.
I'll just
and-
dictate the book
and all the
Yeah.
syntax and
Yeah.
the spelling.
Could you just reform my sentences? Or if I dictated in Spanish, it'd be a lot better.
Yeah, that could be
Yeah.
good.
I can spell in Spanish really well.
That's
Are you fluent in Spanish?
Not at all.
Okay.
But it's phonetically, it sounds just like, it's spelled just like it sounds. So actually, people like me have a genetic inability to spell. And so, Benjamin Franklin talked about this, and he actually rewrote the alphabet to be able to help those of us, because he was included in it.
he was. He
To-
couldn't spell either.
Yeah, he couldn't spell either. And so I would just like for y'all to know that Benjamin Franklin and I both have the same problem.
It's the same I mean,
So
his
the
alphabet works for you.
Yes, his alphabet works perfectly.
So the smart people can't spell, and the spellers aren't smart. That settles a lot of arguments we have at home, right there. Because you're a fantastic speller.
Easy.
You're a very good speller.
Hold on a second.
Do you have a soft couch?
We do. We actually have we're fortunate since we moved to the city of Leesburg. We've got an extra bedroom. So
Which you'll be in tonight.
it's Valentine's Day. Come on.
It's Valentine's
It is
Day.
Valentine's
We're all
Happy
going to go
Valentine's
across the
Day.
street. We're going to have another couple of beers.
And we're going to do our best to make sure that this airs before the election.
That's the goal.
Well,
Yeah.
we should
Blake,
announce-
please, before the election.
That the election is March 24th
March 24th.
on
That's
a
right.
Tuesday, as
Yeah.
are all elections.
And really, the only people that are going to be voting are the citizens of Leesburg, so the registered voters of the city of Leesburg. And we look forward to a strong turnout. The good thing for me is if we don't win the election, we shift from mayoral candidate to community activist. And I'd use that. That sounds a little intense, but what I mean is we keep pushing for. We've got another series of elections coming up in November where there'll be. The mayor is actually up for re-election because this is a partial term, and then there'll be 2 council seats coming up. So we keep pushing for this progress because it's not, politics and things like that aren't, I didn't win, I'm going to take my football and go home. It's if you really care about it, you grind and you keep going. It's, what it is, it's business. And it's the city and municipalities in general are businesses. We are business people. We have failures every day, but we keep going and keep going. And so that's what makes us different.
And there's so many appointed positions that they need help with, and there's so few people who actually want to do it. That's the one thing. If you become interested, they will reel you in, and that's, you want to be honest about why there's a lot of bad stuff that goes on, is because there's a lot of people who shouldn't. There's a lot of positions that need to be filled. There's a lot of people that shouldn't be filling those positions who just go up and volunteer.
Right.
And so having someone who's run their own business and been out in the community and has a good vision for what's going on, I mean, that's a big deal.
Well,
and
my hat's off to you, because most people
complain.
just
complain.
Well, they do, and they're like, politics. I don't know if I'm cut out for that. And my hat's off to you, because you're actually doing something, and you're standing for something, and you
Right.
I mean, you and you've got the status quo obviously isn't what you're looking to do. So, and that's great, man. I mean,
Well, I really appreciate that.
cheers.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And there's, the takeaway for me though is it's not, I don't think I'm doing anything spectacular. I'm just doing something that I hope benefits everybody. I mean, Tripp and I have been friends for a long time, and I've coached baseball for a long time. Many years I've coached teams that my son wasn't on, that I didn't have a vested interest, but the enjoyment was what we got out of that. There's so many kids that still reach out to me with problems, with excitement, with things that are going great for them, family issues, and those relationships that I've fostered are incredible. I mean, it's really, besides the fact of having an amazing wife and 3 wonderful children and a great business.
Good call. You threw that in
well, it's
there.
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Nice
So,
all right.
but it's been so rewarding to have all of that in my life, and to watch my son and all of those other kids grow together and prosper. And we got to keep investing in them. I mean, Tripp and I are going to lose our sons off to school, early this fall. But
You better pick up softball here shortly.
well, that's my plan. My wife says no, but that's my plan. But we've got to keep investing in them. We've got to keep.
We're going to do dance, like one recital a year. I've spent many days at the ballpark.
And here's a funny thing: is you can't predict it. Like I've been a sports guy since I can remember forever, and had a daughter first, and really wanted her to be involved in all things sports. And we were living in Macon at the time. I mean, she had the best glove. She had a bat that was like $300. It was like the best bat you could get for a T-baller. And
she's 3 years old.
She's 3 years old, and she. So we went to the practices, and the very first game, she's like, I ain't doing it. It's like, what? I was like, nope, not going up there, not batting. We've got 10, I don't know, however many grandparents we have and cousins and everybody from there, and she won't go up. And as a, how old was I, 20, I don't know, 30, early 30s parent, yep, she really broke us in as far as figuring out the whole.
But she's athletic.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
look at her dad. I mean, look at this guy. He's a specimen.
That's awesome. But my point being, you can't. The funny thing, she broke me in for. I mean, Joe has been a pleasure to be with, and Walker's been a pleasure to be with because he's been on most of Joe's teams. But she broke me in as far as, yep, Dad, not going to do it. And then she enjoyed soccer and she enjoyed cheerleading, and so it's fun.
Well, I remember you and I serving on the Dixie board together here in Albany for youth baseball, and you're going to deny this or push back, not take any credit, but there was you and a group of guys that really pushed. People that had daughters played t-ball, and as that. Sometimes that athletic gap started to change in that particular sport. The girls didn't have a lot of options, but a softball program was put into place while we were there, and you were instrumental in that. And so yes, it affected your child and your children, but essentially everybody grew from that. And then you had a viable softball organization, and that really kind of relates to what we're trying to do here with the community. Yes, I'm doing this for my children and my family's future, but if I do it correctly, everyone benefits. And if everyone else pushing in that same direction does it for their family and for the betterment of the community, like you said earlier, then we all benefit. And so essentially that's the goal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Revell for Mayor 2020.
Revell for Mayor 2020.
On that, we should probably
quit.
Well,
we're good. Thank y'all.
Ham Radio. He's wanting to talk.
I wanted to tell him about this radio station, what my idea of how great it was. I'll tell him when we're off the air. It's a good radio station, Q102.
Oh, if you actually made it to this part, thank you.
Thank you.
And goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.